All right, here we go. Hey, Yuri. How's it going?
Yeah, hey Steph, all great, all great. How are you?
I'm good. Well, we've been on the phone together for several hours today talking about reInvent, which is going to
Oh
be
yeah.
next week. If you somehow missed that announcement, we are both going to be there, which is going to be very exciting. Are you looking forward to it?
Oh yes, this is my first reInvent actually, and I'm so
Really?
excited. Yeah. It's first time because I joined AWS 3 years ago, and there was like exactly after reInvent, and then there were like two reInvents which were like virtual, and now it's finally I have a chance to travel, and yeah, actually I'm really excited. I'm
Oh,
because
cool.
yeah, so we will be speaking together, so it's also nice.
Yeah. Yuri has stepped in to be my co-speaker on my Chalk Talk. So we'll share in a second some reminders of what sessions we've got going on. But my top tips are bring comfortable pairs of shoes is like the main one. And I think what to be more sustainable, I'm shouting people should bring like a reusable coffee cup and a reusable water bottle so that you can just like grab those coffees on the go and not have to have a million coffee cups. But the shoes thing and comfortable clothes is like the thing that I've seen everybody press for this year, just because you are on your feet a lot. And power packs for your devices. That's the other one.
No, nice. No, I'm very excited to actually to be at reInvent this year, and yeah, I'm looking forward to meet all the customers and and speak to everyone. It's amazing time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's a good point. Let's just before we get into the show, let me throw up some generic sessions that are coming up, and you're going to point out some more in a bit about. Oh, that's my background. About sessions. Oh, of course, it doesn't work when I go to present. We'll come back to it. But there is a bunch of a bunch of sessions that we've got going on are all around cost. You can see us on LinkedIn talking about it, but I'll spin them up at the end. But yeah, let's get into the show. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Stephanie Gooch, and I am a senior commercial architect in the optics team based out of the UK. And I've got Yuiry with me today. Yuiry, do you want to give a bit of a background story and intro to yourself?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Yuri. I'm principal technical account manager at AWS, and my role is related. Like in my role, I work with large enterprise support customers and help them to actually be as efficient as possible in terms of their operations in the cloud, in terms of their cost management, security. And yeah, and about 2 years ago, actually, I decided to scale this whole knowledge and experience of working with these large customers to a broader set of customers and build a couple of quick site dashboards such as CUDOS and Trusted Advisor dashboard together with actually a few of other customer obsessed Amazonians. And yeah, it just actually turned into cloud intelligence dashboards projects now, and I co-run this whole project, and yeah, actually helping to scale it and helping other customers to actually use all our dashboards and in their FinOps function and FinOps practice.
Nice. Yeah, we obviously bring up the dashboards constantly here. So if you have used it, let us know in the comments. Have you actually used the dashboards? What do you think of them? And today we're going to be going through some hidden gems of the dashboards. So I think a lot of times when I speak to customers, there's so much great information in them, but there's quite a lot of information in them too. And that's because we want to give you the option to kind of dive into yourself and play around and try different analysis and see what works for you. So today we're going to go across some services that are a little bit different than what we normally jump onto. And this kind of relates to the talk that I'm doing at reInvent. So I'm doing a chalk talk on optimizing the others, which is this session here. So sign up if you can. I think there's a wait list, or come by and say hi. And there's a bunch of other sessions in here that we would recommend you checking out. But we wanted to point out the ones that are a bit rarer. So if you think these are useful, put a comment down below. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and let us know if you're coming to reInvent, if you found any of this useful. But yeah, let's kick into some discussion, because I think a lot of people already know about the cloud intelligence dashboards. We've been on here a lot. So what do you want to focus on today, Yuri?
Yeah, today I want to show actually some things as you mentioned, like some parts of Kudos dashboard, which is one of our cloud intelligence dashboards, which are not well known by customers, because most of the customers know, things like, okay, here's compute details in CUDOS, here are like reserved instances and savings plans details and things like that, which is often used like, your first choice in terms of cost optimization. But there are so much more, and I'm surprised that, like, customers just not aware about this, while there is so much, interesting and important stuff. So I'd like to kind of uncover this and talk a bit more about those hidden gems, as we call it, and how actually to find them and what to look for in CUDOS dashboard today.
Awesome. All right, let's share your screen and we'll dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sharing my screen now. Yeah, maybe for everyone who is not aware of what is cloud intelligence dashboards are, just a quick intro, very short one. So imagine that every AWS customer has bunch of raw data like cost and usage report, like compute optimizer data with auto-generated recommendation, trusted advisor data, lots of these different data sources. And imagine now that in AWS there is a group of SMEs and experts in cost optimization, in FinOps, who actually decided to build the dashboards and bring in the dashboards the knowledge of how to present this data to a customer. So actually the business, to make the data closer to business decision makers. Yeah. And then imagine that in QuickSight, it's possible to actually share these dashboards via templates. So every AWS customer can deploy these dashboards in their organization. So kind of get this, part of knowledge embedded in the dashboards in as a self-service tool. So that's where we are. That's what Cloud Intelligence dashboards is. And now we are looking at one of our dashboards, which is CUDOS dashboard. It's one like the most popular dashboard at the moment among our customers. So yeah, here's actually what you can see when you just deployed CUDOS. There are a bunch of different tabs here, and there are a bunch of different visuals here. And as I mentioned, there are these first executive high-level visuals are the most popular because they allow you to actually focus on what is moving within your spend and usage. But there are plenty of other tabs dedicated to particular
Lots.
domains of services
Yeah.
like compute, storage. And I want to talk today first about data transfer, actually. So one of the things that we show in CUDOS, and we really put a lot of efforts in actually visualizing the spend and usage of data transfer. So I'd like to show you basically what we have here. So
Yeah,
if you go,
definitely.
if you go to data transfer summary tab in CUDOS, first of all, as in many other tabs, you can find this section with recommendations, which we want you to have a look and read, and with some references to blog posts, to our documentation, such as, hey, you can save up to 30% with CloudFront Security Savings Bundles. So if you use CloudFront, you can consider this, right? And then we...
Oh, just jumping on that. I mean, the amount of times I think instantly people just scroll past this bit because it's just text. Just if you are watching and you're like, I want to learn something, go and read the different ones on your different tabs, because I definitely do it. People always scroll past text to look at pictures, but go and check out something and then tell everybody else about it in your team.
Oh yeah, because we try to keep it up to date. Yeah, so when some new feature comes in, like recently we've got GP3 volume support for RDS. Yeah, so we put this as a recommendations as well, and we with every new version of the dashboard, we try to add more and more up to date recommendations. So check them out definitely. And then when we scroll down, we get more details about data transfer spend. So first of all, like you see the breakdown of your data transfer spend by accounts on this visual, and also you could see what are the types of your data transfer are. So for example, like it's very challenging to get details. Okay, out of my data transfer, what other inter-AZ data transfer costs? What are my data transfer cost which went through transit gateway, or region to internet data transfer? So here it's very easy to identify, because we actually categorize this data transfer, and we present it in a very easy to understand way. Yes, so
Yeah.
you could actually see what types of data transfer are here.
No, that in itself is very useful. I think, especially with data transfer, it's not my favorite topic to dive into with customers just because of a lack of knowledge, and it's something that I think maybe new year I might push myself to get more involved in. If anyone has any recommendations for things to look at data transfer, send them to me. But the fact that you can see it in a really human readable way, I think not only makes it easier for you to understand like where this cost is coming from, but how to narrow your scope with optimization, because you're not going to spend all the time. I'm trying to see what the smallest line is, region to region. Is that what it is? I'm trying to think what the smallest one is.
Yeah,
So you're not going to
it's
spend all your time looking at that. Or yeah,
yeah,
region
yeah,
to internet.
absolutely.
When you could do the other ones that are like a big spend.
Yeah, yeah. So there is a set of controls where you can actually like check boxes where you can select particular data transfer types, or you can simply click on this data transfer type, and all other visuals will be filtered like based on your selection. So now all the visuals focusing only on InterAZ. You can see only accounts which and they are spent for InterAZ data transfer. Then you can see the InterAZ data transfer breakdown by particular services. Yes, so and
Nice.
amount of traffic generated by each service here. And daily visual actually, because it's very useful because you can spot some spikes. Sometimes in one day there might be, a very um, like a huge amount of data transfer generated, and usually it's not noticed. While here it's very easy to spot. And
Nice.
then there are like other details, like what's your monthly usage and cost for InterAZ data transfer by service.
Mm-hmm.
And we go in very deep details here. So look, we have now data transfer, InterAZ data transfer per API operation. So you can see in which account, which API operations cost which amount of data transfer. So like we can see that here is at my top account, and here's
Mm-hmm.
like I have uh, this amount of interzone in and out data transfer. Yeah. And on the right side, you can see again daily breakdown of this data transfer per IP operation. And you can
Mm-hmm.
focus even more precisely. You can click on particular account, yeah, and then everything rendered to InterAZ and now this account. So you narrowing down the scope of your search, yeah, and you can see which regions this InterAZ data transfer in this account happening, what amount of data transfer you hover on. You can see 6.2 million gigabytes. And the most important part, which is like the most interesting, that you can see top 10 resources which actually generated this data transfer. So you could see the amount of traffic which they generated and the cost. So this is very important when you want to actually optimize, for example, InterAZ data transfer, and you want to identify which resources actually are my top InterAZ generators. So maybe you could, if it's not a critical production environment, if it's some dev environment, you might
Mm-hmm.
group them into a single AZ and minimize the InterAZ data transfer cost, or sometimes you might apply some other architectural changes. But that's a very, very frequent use case for data transfer tab in CUDOS.
Nice. So you kind of can identify what is costing you the most and then filter into when is this happening and what changes need to be made. And then you can go down to see kind of what resource it is. So we've narrowed the scope down from from all data transfer to into AZ, then down to when is it happening and what resources are causing it. So then you can go and check. And I think I don't know about you with data transfer, I don't know if it's not the same thing as like right sizing an instance. Right sizing an instance is quite like a simple thing to do because you're just kind of changing one metric. When it comes to data transfer, what do you think the biggest optimization opportunity customers have? Is it kind of InterAZ or are there other things that normally jump out?
Yeah, InterAZ and also data transfer out, placing your resources behind CDN, yeah, and then purchasing things like savings bundle for CloudFront. So basically, it's a frequent scenario. Yeah, InterAZ is also, there are some optimization techniques, as I mentioned, like placing in the same availability zone, not critical workloads, and yeah, there are plenty of things that you could implement here.
Mhm.
But yeah, generally the most important part that you get visibility. Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
can you can work towards optimization, but you know which resources generate you the most.
Yeah, I think that's the most powerful thing, especially like you said, if this isn't a dev account and you're like, why is it costing way more than prod? Then that's kind of a good red flag. And we did do a bit of an AZ episode on keys before. So check out our YouTube channel, the Key Service Optimization, too, and look for data transfer. And there'll be some high level stuff about how you could start to optimize, especially around the interregion one. But yeah. All right, cool. So anything else on the data transfer one? Oh,
yeah,
there's some other options.
One thing which is related to network resources, and resources like ELBs, NAT gateways, VPC endpoints, where you actually have some data transfer charges, but also you have charges related to hourly usage of these resources. And here we have a section for this network resource utilizations. And again, there are some pretty interesting and good recommendations here. But what you can see here is, again, your monthly spend per top accounts. Yeah, so you can easily identify the trends for this type of, for example, for ELBs, if you selected ELBs here. Then you can see hourly traffic going through your ELBs. You can see top resources here with their, like, which accounts they belong to, which region, like what's your hourly fee and which amount of hours it was used. And very interesting part that we have here idle resources. So because we can, from cost and usage report, we can actually identify which resources have hourly fee but no single byte of data transfer fees. So we actually list here completely idle resources, and for example, in this case, it goes up to 7.8K of idle ELBs, which is, I would say, pretty frequent scenarios when customers deploy something and then don't use it and forget to clean it up. So it's a great way to identify this kind of resources.
Okay, so I have two questions. One, just say it again for me. How did you establish that they're idle? Is the amount of data transferred to it, right?
Yeah. So actually, in cost and usage report, because for CUDOS dashboard, the cost and usage report is a source of the data, and we in cost and usage report, you have both data transfer charges and hourly charges. So we can easily by applying some calculation logic, we can easily identify resources where there is hourly charge but no single byte of data transfer charge. So it means that there were no single byte of traffic passing through this resource, and you have hourly fees for it. So it clearly says that it's idle resource.
That's great, because also if you think about, you can combine this information and look at your TAL dashboard, because that on Trusted Advisor you will get recommended idle idle ELBs, right? So you can kind of that's for no attached instances, isn't it? It's similar.
Yeah, it's similar, but here we have a bit more, because in Trusted Advisor we have only idle load balancers. Here we have idle NAT gateways, idle VPC endpoints, VPNs, etc. So here we go a bit, we extending functionality which Trusted Advisor has. So for example, for if you selected idle VPC endpoints, yes, so here we can see the cost of your idle VPC endpoints as well. So you can actually play with these toggles and check whether you have any idle resources in this group. And
Nice.
if we talk about VPC endpoints, by the way, we also go a bit beyond cost optimization, but rather to operations, and we show also your single AZ VPC endpoints. So, which again, if it's some production workloads and you care about resiliency of this workload, so you should consider placing VPC endpoints in multiple availability zones. Yeah, and here we highlight actually that those ones are single AZ and they might have reliability risks.
Oh, interesting. Okay, didn't know. So if you are looking for some targeted things to have like a checklist of things to go and try and optimize, then check out in the data transfer tab those idle resources. We have a question I wanted to throw up. So if we have this visibility, do we not need VPC flow logs anymore?
Not really, because VPC flow logs uncover us details about actually the traffic which went through. While here we can see only the total amount of traffic and the cost. But in VPC flow logs, we could see the source IPs, ports, destination IPs, so all the details. So basically, VPC flow logs, it's rather required when you need to investigate, the traffic flows, where to, on which ports. While here you can see the cost and total amount of usage.
Awesome. I think I've seen customers, it's a good question as well, because I have seen customers save a lot of money where they've set up VPC flow logs they don't need. I think that happened once at a FinHack, but they'd enabled it. So just something to check. Or they were sending data across or something. I'm trying to remember now. It was at a FinHack. It was a while ago. But thank you for the question. Any more, feel free to pop them in the chat.
Oh yeah, great question, by the way.
All right, so we're done with data transfer. What's our next tab?
Monitoring and observability. And those kind of services which like lots of customers are using and using like frequently, and services like CloudWatch. Yeah, and here we have also lots to things to offer for CloudWatch customers. And again, there are some of recommendations to consider and check out with our reference of documentation and blog posts. And again, you have visuals which show you breakdown of CloudWatch spend per account. And then again, in very easy to understand, let's say human readable format, we show this CloudWatch usage type groups, which actually correspond to our pricing pages. So you do not need to know like structure of data under the hood. You can clearly see which part, like which amount you pay for which parts of CloudWatch service, because the service is pretty, complex. Yes, there are lots of different parts, and it's very important to understand what exactly contributes to your spend on CloudWatch. Yeah, here we can clearly see like here is my spend on CloudWatch metric API calls. Here is my spend on custom metrics. Here is my spend on CloudWatch logs. So it's very easy to understand what you're paying for. And yeah, and the same with data transfer, the same pattern applies here. You can focus, if you want to focus on any of the usage type groups, you can simply click on it, and then rest of the CloudWatch visuals will be filtered based on your selections. You could see what are the API operations contributing to this CloudWatch log group spend. So put event logs, log delivery. So it's like you go really in more details of view, and then you can see top 10 resources. Yes, so based on your selection, so your top 10 CloudWatch log groups, and you could see also what's the API operation, what's the pricing unit, what's the usage amount, and the usage cost. So all the details. And on top of that, there is hourly, no, it's daily. Yeah, it's daily spend of top 10 resources. So you could see actually some interesting things, even in this case. So you could see that some CloudWatch log group actually appeared for the short period of time and then was deleted. So, interesting. What was that? Yeah,
What's happened
maybe,
there?
yeah, something new. Maybe let's check with someone who runs this resource, yeah, in this account and see what was that. Yeah, so it's very interesting.
When it comes to CloudWatch, what is something that you generally like to look at as a way to optimize? Is there something that normally sticks out as like, oh, have you checked this?
Yeah, it's retention period for CloudWatch logs. Yeah, so if you don't need to keep logs for a long period of time, so you can reduce retention periods. That one pretty common thing. Another thing is CloudWatch metric API calls. So, for example, one of the customers who I worked with, they actually with using CUDOS, we identified the growth of CloudWatch metric API calls, and apparently they had pretty like too frequent calls to CloudWatch API, and they didn't need for their business logic of application to do that. So they actually simply reduced the frequency of calls and started to have less calls, so started to pay less.
Ah, very simple. Well, it makes sense. You do it less, you pay less. I just popped up a video of me, John, and Bill going through how to see your CloudWatch costs and how to optimize them in a few different ways. One that I've seen coming up more is EKS plain logging has been enabled, and customers their kind of costs will go up and they weren't really expecting it, and then you're just paying for that extra service. And I think a lot of that, like you said at the start, CloudWatch is complex and there's a lot of things to pay for, a lot of really good services to utilize, and people just forget about it, and they'll just kind of the cost will creep up over time as more and more things get deployed, because you do need to use it, but they don't really track it. Before we move on, I have another question, kind of going back to the thing we were talking about before. Is there a way we can find potential candidates to switch from NAT to VPC endpoints based on billing usage?
It is, but I would say you need to consider each case separately, and learn more about a bit of context what you actually trying to achieve, and what's your architecture, whether you would like to to consolidate your NAT gateway, like your traffic to internet, through one single NAT gateway. And so I would say it depends. So there is no kind of one single prescriptive guidance, at least not I'm aware of. But generally, it's something that you can consider, and especially if you see lots of lots of traffic coming through your NAT gateways. So that's one of the things you can consider for optimizing the cost.
Okay, cool. And just one more question before we move on. Can you see price per ARN? I think there was a view of that, wasn't there?
Yes, so in here you can see actually this is iron. It looks a bit, you see, it's because this data is generated, so we just randomly generated resource IDs. But this is an iron, so you can see price and usage per iron. Those are basically your daily spend per iron. If you hover on, you can see exactly the iron here. In data transfer, you see also the IRN of resource, like when we looked at top 10 resources, those are also IRNs.
Oh, thank you.
Cool.
All right, on to CloudTrail. So I want to jump in here first, and I'm often surprised when customers have spending CloudTrail because the first one's free, right? I remember that correctly.
Yeah, in CloudTrail you actually have one trail, like as a one trail for free.
Right. So yeah, and there's also something called the organization trail. I think that's the concept, where you can enable it from the organization and have a trail in like all of your linked accounts. And that was how our security like ran it. They deployed that singular one, and then that one's free. So if you are trying to cut costs and you don't, you have a centralized logging system, then maybe keep an eye on if your CloudTrail costs are coming up. But what else can we find out from the lab dashboard?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exactly the purpose, is to visualize the cost of CloudTrail. And because as you mentioned, that like one trail is for free, and usually we recommend to enable organizational trail. So I would say it's security rule number 0 in AWS: enable CloudTrail. So all your API calls are actually logged, yeah, and you can investigate and check them out from the data if you need. But here on this dashboard, you could see the cost of CloudTrail. So those are additional trails which might be enabled in particular accounts in your organization, which actually then you started to get charged when it's a second trail and any next trail. So here, the best practice is to check whether actually you need the second trail. Maybe you could just share the data which you collect with first trail with the owners of those accounts if they need them, and maybe if they need it, and actually you can minimize amount of CloudTrail spend to pretty much up to 0. Yeah, so it's use second trail, like use any non-first trail only when you sure that you need them. And this
Yeah.
visual actually allows you to identify in your organization, if it's like complex and have multiple accounts, basically which accounts are enabled this additional trails.
Yeah, it's something to look out for. Just as a reminder, if you do delete the trails, like check the security first, but also look out for the bucket that's attached to it, because if you don't need that backup of data, don't pay for it. So just make sure if you're going to disable the trail, check out what bucket it's connected to, and then delete that as well. All right, we've got 2 minutes left. Before we say last things, just as a reminder, any other questions you have, please feel free to email us at costoptimization@amazon.com. Any questions around cost optimization, and we'll try and help you out. A lot of you do email, which is lovely, and we try and help as much as we possibly can. But Yuiry, do you want to just quickly touch on the reInvent sessions that you wanted to mention?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this reInvent, we have plenty of sessions which actually cover cloud intelligence dashboards. And on this slide, you can see these sessions, and we have hands-on labs, we have theater sessions, we have breakout sessions and chat talks. So all those sessions actually mention cloud intelligence dashboards, or explain how cloud intelligence dashboards can be used in different domains, which is impressive, like in marketplace, or in sustainability, yes, so, or in basically some optimization and support related things. I will be speaking at this COP 336 session, and will be also present at workshop. here. So if anyone would like to have a chat in person, so you can meet me there.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. As a reminder, it is reInvent next week, so all the Twitch channels will be taken over by that. But we are back in 2 weeks to do our best bits of reInvent and the top announcements that you should be looking out for. So if you have a good something that you want to highlight, if you went to a great session, if you found a good optimization opportunity, then come and join us in 2 weeks and share that. But thank you, Yuiry, and well, I'll see you next week, and you'll see both of us on Build Live next Wednesday.
Yeah.
3:30, I think almost like the same time as now. Next Wednesday, 3:00 Vegas time, not the UK time.
Thanks
But
for having me today.
Thanks. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.